Hi, everyone. Welcome today to Celebrity Customer Experience, Riffs with me, Jill Rath, where we talk about everything from employee experience to customer experience, because I guarantee you, your employee experience will be a leading indicator of your customer experience. We riff on everything related to connection culture within your business, one where the genuine connections, relationships, and accountability you can count on your employees delivering a celebrity customer experience to your paying customers. So you have your internal customers and your external customers. And before we get going today, I just want to thank you for investing your time with us here today to explore the topic of employee and customer experience and why they are so intrinsically intertwined. They are, in fact, inseparable. So know that I appreciate you, and I want to encourage you to get the most out of it, whether you're watching us live or on the replay. Engage. If you're on live, you can comment and we'll bring your comments and bring you into our conversation. And if you're watching the replay, tag me, the guest, give us your thoughts, and we be involved. Share this with someone who you think this may resonate with as well. So I am really excited about today's guest. So I will bring him on right now, and I would love to welcome Sam Oches. Hey, Sam.
Hey, Jill, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us.
Of course.
So, a little bit about Sam. He's an award-winning editorial director of Informa's Restaurant and Food Group, which publishes Nation's restaurant news, restaurant hospitality, supermarket news, and food management. He's also the host of a fantastic podcast called Takeaway. Sam's food service insights have been shared in multiple national media outlets such as New York Times, USA Today, National Public Radio, and CNBC. You can find Sam in Columbus, Ohio, with his wife and two kids. And he says he knows more about food and know about the restaurants than is healthy, but is not a food critic. But definitely we're going to tap into some of that knowledge and his passion around food and restaurants, because of all his experience and all that he shares with so many media sources and the guests that he gleans more insight from in his Takeaway podcast. So it's a perfect segue to today's topic of discussion, which is why experience is everything in today's restaurants. Now, I know when I posted this, I was like, do you think it's the most important thing? Like, there's some debate out there. I think some chefs might think, well, wait a minute, it's my food that's the hero here. So we're going to dive into that in a second. But first, Sam, if you would, please just share a little bit about a minute or so about your background, your journey, and what led you to be so involved in the food and restaurant world.
Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to. Pretty simple story. I'm the luckiest person in the world. I I didn't plan on being in the restaurant food service business at all. My not so dirty little secret now is that I have never worked in a restaurant. Aside from work obligations and just experiments behind kitchens for content. So I was actually going to be a music journalist. I'm a musician. I'm a drummer. I've been in bands. I wanted to be the next great Rolling Stone journalist who traveled the country with bands. And I discovered in college that that's not a very well-paying gig, that you have to really fight for every paycheck. And I was looking for some stability. My girlfriend in college, now my wife, we wanted to settle down. We knew we wanted to get married. And so I was like, I need a paycheck. I got into business journalism and literally
Oh, shoot. You froze. Ah, dang it. I don't know if that's my side or yours. Sam, can you hear me? Let's see. See if we can figure out where the source of the problem is. Sam can, let me see if I remove him and bring him back on, if that helps. No. Dang it. All right, guys, we're gonna figure this out.
My
You there?
first job out of, am I
Yeah,
here?
there.
Am I good?
Sorry, you froze and then went
Oh,
away. So you needed a stable paycheck was the last thing I heard. And
I thought that was the last relevant bit of information about me, so I decided to sign off. Sorry, I have a child in the house watching a movie on TV, so we might have Wi-Fi issues if that happens again. Hopefully, it doesn't. But yeah, I had a lot of lucky breaks, and I got a job out of college as associate editor of QSR magazine, and that was my first experience with the food service world. I had business journalism training in college, but not food service in particular, and so that was an incredible opportunity. I was with QSR and FSR magazines for 12 years
Hmm.
before I came over to Nation's Restaurant News, and now have been here for about 2 years. And I love the restaurant industry. I love food service. Now, as part of the Informa's restaurant and food group, I have a chance now to touch food and retail, non-commercial food service as well as commercial food service. So, like I said, luckiest man alive, because there's a lot of trade journals out there covering obscure industries that I don't know about, and I'm glad that I get to do restaurants and not those obscure industries.
Yeah, I love it. It just you triggered that memory, that thought when so we met at the Mid America Restaurant Association Expo and Conference held in Columbus, Ohio, where you're from.
Yeah,
And I was on your podcast, fortunate to be on Takeaway. But I was when they wrote me and said, "Oh, Sam wants to interview you," I was like so excited because when I saw Nation's Restaurant News, it was like I had this flash of as a child seeing that publication, my dad reading it and getting it as a McDonald's early McDonald's owner operator. So I love it. It kind of comes full circle, and I think it's fantastic. And you've had this broad depth of covering the different ends of the market. So a lot of
I'm
fun.
so
So
glad to hear that. Yeah,
yeah. Um, Okay, so let's just dive right into the experience, right? So
sure.
why is experience so important to start with? And then let's talk about why
Yeah.
we think why is it more important even than the food potentially?
Sure, yeah, and you're right, chefs will disagree, but I mean, for me, I feel like food is table stakes. I mean, if you don't have good food, of course, you're not gonna have a successful restaurant business. Why I think experience is everything is because if your restaurant if your restaurant is in business, you've managed to build a customer base, then you've figured out the food, right? Like, so long as you can consistently produce the food, then you're in good shape. Experience is the differentiator, and that's why I think it's everything. Is because if you don't have a great experience, even if you have great food, customers aren't going to want to come back. A classic example. I lived in Durham, North Carolina for 12 years, and there was this great pizza place, and it had my favorite pizza. And first time I went there, I had a awful experience. A mean waiter. It just was awful. I'll give him another chance. Went back again, same experience. The wait
Oh
staff
wow.
was terrible. Went back again. I kept giving them chances because the pizza was so good. And we finally gave up. We stopped, even though it was my favorite pizza. I finally gave up, and I just feel like that's true of customers everywhere over, because there are a million restaurants in the United States. There are so many options for the
Mm,
customer.
mhm,
And the food can only go in so many directions, right? And it's, again, not to disqualify the food, but it's like there are 20 sandwich places that I could choose from in my neighborhood right now, and the variation in food quality is minimal.
mhm.
But the experience, that's where the variation can really come in, and you can have a really great experience or a not so great experience.
Yeah.
And so that's often what we choose, my wife and I, when we make our decisions for where we're going to eat. Often the experience of it comes into play, more so than the quality of the food, just because we have two little kids. We've got a lot going on in our lives. The
Yeah.
last thing I want to deal with is a checked out waitress or a rude cashier Or, I mean, the experience, of course, extends to your app. If I'm just ordering from your app, the experience of I'm frustrated with trying to figure out how to,
Yeah.
order this or that. I'm going to sign off and go to somewhere else. So yeah, and we can get into it, I'm sure. But the experience is everything from I'm not interacting with a person, just your app, to I'm sitting down to white tablecloth, want white tablecloth kind of service. It just, to me, that's everything about whether or not I decide to come back.
Yeah, exactly. So actually, gosh, as you're saying that, just so many segues from that, right? Is the experience from, especially today, as most of America has gotten more into doing online ordering. So that, because of the pandemic, that whole piece adds into that. Ease, functionality, all of those things, and to the experience of the people, to the way things are set, to how you're greeted. There, I mean, there's so many ways, and the level of experience, the expectation that goes along with, say, a QSR, right, to a fast casual, to a white linen, like the expectations are different. So how are
Yeah.
those being met, and right, and what does that experience actually mean? And I've always felt, long ago, even before we're having these issues with the experiences often that we have due to problems with staffing, is I will, like you, put up with even food that's just okay. It's got to be good, right? I'm not going to go eat somewhere
Right.
where the food's not good, but and because of there's the competition, right? That's another huge variable in the whole mix. But I would go for good food, but even if it's nothing to write home about, if I'm having this amazing experience, right? And
Yeah.
and we talk about experience, so let's just dive into a little bit of that, like all the different areas of what does the experience mean? And could it is like just being greeted, right? The tone, the facial, the expression. Are you greeted even at all? Is there any eye contact? Those little nuances that a lot of times when people ask what I do and I talk about, employee experience to customer experience, those things seem like common sense, right? Like they seem
Yeah.
so basic. And yet, why is it that we continually have these bad experiences in these
Yeah.
areas that supposedly these owners and the GMs, they know, right? So where is that disconnect happening?
Well, probably in a lot of different places. Obviously, to start in hiring, and certainly recently, the labor pool's very shallow for
Mm,
restaurants right now, and so unfortunately, you just got to have a body in a position. Sometimes you don't have the luxury of looking for that friendly face necessarily, and so right off the bat, hiring somebody with those soft skills can be a challenge. Certainly, right now. Beyond that, training and culture and embedding into that new hire what those expectations are and why we have those expectations, making sure that those employees have some skin in the game, they're incentivized to perform at a high level. But let's also throw the employee a bone here. The last couple of years, it's been really hard to be a restaurant employee. And quite frankly, customers have not been on their
mm.
best behavior.
No,
The
that's right.
expectation has become so high. And I'm guilty of this too, where you have one job, right? You want to just like, this is not hard. But when you have these employees who get berated
Yeah.
and just so many things that can go wrong in a restaurant, often now, by the way, because of technology, but the employee is going to take the fall for it. And so there,
Yeah, they're
there
the front
there's a
man.
lot that yeah, there's a lot that's asked of restaurant employees today. So this swirl of things can lead to the breakdown of that experience and unfortunately lead to a bad experience. Honestly, it's what makes me all the more impressed by those top performers. And look, I got nothing at stake here, but I'll just show you. Like, I got one of these not so far from my house. This is a Chick-fil-A.
Always comes
And
up on the show, right?
can't talk about this without talking about Chick-fil-A because I am just constantly blown away by
Yeah.
the fact that I've never had a bad experience there. And the Chick-fil-A just down the road from my house, like many Chick-fil-A's, has a frustratingly long drive-through line. They, of anybody, should be stressed. They, if anybody, should be, losing their cool sometimes, and they never ever do. And it just so surprises me. But yeah, any number of ways in which you have to make sure you're keeping that level of customer service and providing that great experience. And if you don't start at the top and really make sure all those systems are in place, such as the training and the culture, then it's going to fall apart pretty easily.
Yeah, 100%. And of course, we're in alignment on that, and why soon I'm going to start writing a column for Nation's Restaurant News talking about that culture and how do we use that as basically the answer to all the problems that we're having, and that the customers experience, and even the employee experiences, as you mentioned. So kind of to give it a little swizzle. So what pressing problems are you seeing in restaurants that, whereby focusing on the experience actually makes the difference?
I mean, hospitality certainly, because a little touch of hospitality can go a long way for a customer.
Mhm.
I mean, and again, sort of the reverse of my pizza experience. I've gone to some restaurants where the food might have been average, but an employee might have done one little thing that made me think, oh, good for them, I'm coming back. And
Mm.
look, I'm in this mode, so I'll just bring it up a lot. But as the father of two young kids, restaurant experiences are stressful for me right now. No, either my kids are 6 and 4, so like, we're dealing with just food getting thrown to the floor. The moment we come in the restaurant, it's like if they don't have something to focus on, we're just gonna be like, where's our food, where's our food, where's our food, right? And so if there's somebody in the restaurant that's going to help to alleviate that stress, that goes a long, long way in my book, right? And so this is, I mean, of course, this is why restaurants are prepared with like crayon packs and, coloring sheets. And
Mhm.
I know some restaurants will even like right out of the gate come with some sort of food for the kid because they can't wait. And so there's a lot of tactics with kids in particular that are well known. But I think it's just an example of customers are coming in your door likely stressed because let's face it, we're all stressed. And how do you turn that moment being in the restaurant into a not stressful moment in their life? They'll
Mhm.
reward you for that, and the food almost doesn't factor into that because it's how did you make them feel. They
Mm.
won't remember necessarily how good
Right.
the food was when they leave the restaurant. The next day, they're not gonna think, "You know what was really good? That burger I had last night." They're gonna think, "You know what was really fun? Going to that burger restaurant last night." And it was probably
Yeah.
because a lot of the other factors beyond the food.
It,
By the
it's
way,
the
Jill,
it's
and
the
to
food.
everybody watching, I'm sorry, it's the first
Yeah.
sunny day in Columbus. I'm getting blasted
Uh,
with sunlight at the moment, so sorry about that.
no, you're good. You're good. Yeah. What struck me, what you just said, is kind of the food swizzle of Maya Angelou's expression, right? Like,
Mm,
how do you feel? What was your experience? What was the emotion that came out of that, rather than just the food itself, right?
yeah,
So,
yep.
um, so it's interesting to me too to see that right now you're seeing experience through the food as well as through the experience of the people, which we focused on mostly at this point. But like, look at the hot trends of the experiential cocktails. The whole cocktail world is blowing up. And I've seen pictures. My sisters send me all these pictures. It was not where I was, but it was like the it, I forget what they called it, and they come up with these clever names, but it actually was like a bathtub with all these foam bubbles with a little ducky on the side, and it was a cocktail. And, others that are just have this massive like smoke and this nest of something, fibers like threads, kind of like you would do for a dessert, like, with like halva threads or something like that. But it's really interesting, grilling at the table, right? Like many various Asian cuisines do, but it's the engagement of the people who were there either eating or drinking, or the presentation of things, and all the things that are going. I'm just blown away by what's going on with this whole cocktail scene.
Yeah.
And it's, to me, it feeds into exactly that whole importance of the experience, because they're going to go home and talk about that, right?
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. My wife and I last night just finished that Drink Masters show on Netflix. I don't know if you've seen it. It's like
mm-mm.
Top Chef, but for cocktails, and
Oh, cool.
same thing. I mean, the things they were doing with cocktails, it's almost like I don't even. I mean, and I couldn't drink the cocktails, of course. It's almost like even if you were in a bar or seeing that, you almost don't need to drink the cocktails to understand. Like, this is art. This is cool. I want to see this.
It's art, exactly. It's really amazing. And half the ingredients these days, I don't even know what they are. I mean, it's the
Same. Yeah.
presentation is amazing. So I would love to hear, being that you're in this amazing position, with so many experts and subject matter experts and owners and chefs and managers and everything, with all the work that you do, podcast as well as the other work. Share with us, please, some of your insights and knowledge of some of maybe the amazing conversations that you've had that you feel like has been something that people could take tangible takeaways from, to something to implement.
Yeah, sure. And I guess to build off of what you were also just saying, I do think that the experience, beyond hospitality, beyond quality of food, into very unique activations is becoming more important too. I mean, look at the entertainment industry. Now beyond Top Golf, and Punch Bowl Social, we have pickleball concepts popping up, and there's dart concepts, and I mean, you name an activity, a yard activity, and there's probably some food and beverage concept, building up around that activity today. And, there's a reason for that, which is the experience, is that if you took experience to the extreme, that leads to entertainment, because it is not just, I want to go be not stressed for an hour in a restaurant. It's, I want to go have some fun. And
Mm-hmm.
yes, bars have been around forever to do that. God bless bars for being able to provide that. But if I can, drive a couple golf balls while I'm doing it, all the better. If I could bowl with some friends, all the better. I mean, I think back to, I mean, when I was in college, if entertainment was around, I mean, hey, we would have had something to do. Like,
And
it's just
rather than
amazing,
only drinking, right?
rather than
That's a good,
only drinking. Exactly.
great point. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's again, I think that's experience to the extreme. Entertainment will forever be a niche category, a very, I think, successful niche category. But I'm not recommending that a QSR run out and build a bowling lane onto their restaurant, right? But
Right.
it's just, I do think this is important for restaurateurs to be thinking about, why does entertainment work? It
Mm,
works because customers want a unique and fun experience with their meal. And so whatever you can pull out of that, then all the better. Now, of course, because of COVID, I think that's also become heightened, right?
yeah.
So having spent 2 years indoors quarantining, everybody was like, I'm going to break loose in a big way. And that means I want to be, going to Top Golf, or whatever it is. And so perhaps we see entertainment peak in the near term. I don't know. But I do think that that has lessons for everybody. To more succinctly, Jill, answer your question, I would say, what I've really seen ever since the pandemic, arrived, was, this bifurcation of restaurants toward, convenience and experience,
Hmm.
and
Mm.
on the convenience side of things, really the QSR and fast casual brands that are, you just see the digital innovation just raced
Oh,
away starting
huge.
in 2020. And that was mostly QSR fast casual brands that were like, suddenly, like, I can shrink my box, I
Yeah.
can, roll out digital ordering, do DoorDash, open up all these channels for revenue off premises, and maximize the footprint which now can be smaller, so it's more efficient of a business. And nobody is asking for McDonald's to have a bowling lane, right? So, but nowadays, a lot of people aren't even asking for McDonald's to have a table and chairs for them because people maybe don't want to sit at McDonald's. They want to do drive through, of course, but now maybe they want to do delivery or pickup. So again, convenience. But then I do think on the other side, if you're, I don't want to say choosing against convenience, but if you're leaving your house for a restaurant, you probably want an experience because you've chosen already to leave your house, right? So
Mhm.
I don't choose to leave my house to go sit in a QSR. I'm probably going to go sit in a nicer restaurant for a certain amount of time because it's going to be providing that my house cannot provide for me. And again, that's where experience kicks in, which is they chose to come to you not just because you've got a good menu, but because you're giving them an hour or two out of their house where they spend a lot of time. I'm one of the many millions of people that in 2020 started working from home and continue to do so. I go days where I don't think I see the sky. So I have to force myself to get out of the house sometimes. And that's going to be in a restaurant, or a bar with buddies or whatever it is. So the point I'm just trying to make is that, like, if for the short term at least, but I'm sure even for the long term, with the tools available to restaurateurs, you just see a lot of them really focus on convenience, but the opportunity is also over here in the experience because customers are never going to stop wanting that at some point. They might
Mhm.
not go out to restaurants as much as they used to because they can get delivery, but they will want unique experiences from time to time.
Yeah, 100%. I think really what just screamed the loudest to me is your description of the bifurcation of the two. And I think the pandemic has really made that happen. Of course, everything is trends and whether something's peaked or not. I personally do agree that and feel like the entertainment side, I don't think that will ever go away because we all gather around food from time immemorial, right? We love to sit around a table. Where do we go when we're at someone's home? You can find everyone ultimately hanging around the kitchen, right? That
Yeah.
we gravitate that way. There's something about eating, drinking together that just unites us. We are social beings. And I think the pandemic again highlighted our drastic need for that interaction. I've often quoted it and mentioned Sue Pinker has a TED talk that did a study that showed that actually the leading indicator of long life is social interaction with another human being. And
Yeah.
so this is something we actually need in our survival. And so I think that entertainment part allows us to get the entertainment, have the fun, as you said, that we've been craving because we're so locked up in the house. Even now, those of us who work at home and so many more who aren't having even the interaction in their office with people. And what better thing than to mix both food and something fun that you want to do, a way to either see friends or meet new people. And at the same time, there's a need for the other. So I'm glad that you said, look, if you're a QSR, don't run out and build a bowling lane or, know who you are, know your brand, know what your brand promise is. I think that's crucial. Also, in
Right.
getting through this is really reinforcing what you are. And if you are that QSR and you don't have the advantage in a way of that type of experience, that's okay. Then really make sure you nail down your human experience, your employee
Yeah.
experience as they interface with your customers, I think.
Yeah, that's totally true. Yeah, know what your customer expects of you and give it to them. Because again, like, no offense to Chick-fil-A, I can find better chicken in Columbus. It's there, but I can't get it as quickly as they can give it to me, and with as good of a customer experience as they give it to me. And so
You know what to expect, and it's
I know what
reliable.
to expect. Yeah, and my kids love it, right? So but the point is that it's I think Chick-fil-A is a great example of a company that knows its lane and just, like, wears the heck out of it because it doesn't need to be anything else other than what those things are that I explained.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Yeah. Oh, we have a comment I didn't see before. Thank you joining us. Actually, Marsha Rav. And she says she agrees with what you've been saying, and um, has experience in this as well. I will say that is my mother. So a McDonald's past owner operator, so knows this market very well.
Knows
Um,
a lot about experience.
yeah, and has said, it has always come down to, you know, issues with staffing, but the importance of your people, and how crucial that is, and
Yeah,
that's something definitely I learned very early on, and where the work that I do and the principles that I've created and the process, everything comes from that foundation. Um, well, we're running out of time. Thank you so much for joining us. Gosh, there's so much to be said because you could break out experience on so many levels, and perhaps that might be one thing that we do in the upcoming column. That alone could be its own topic. So I just want to put up here for anyone who wants to be in touch and find Sam. You can reach him on LinkedIn. It's just his name with the hyphen in the middle, last name spelled Oches. You can see that on the screen. Sam, I'm really appreciative of you joining today, sharing your insights. I look forward to doing more work with you, and I really just want to thank you for sharing a little piece of all your great knowledge and insights with us today.
no, it's my pleasure. Thank you, Jill, for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, of course, of course. So stay tuned. We're going to be doing an Ask Jill not a column that'll be written, but also here we're going to do a similar format, changing a little bit. We'll be posting every other week. We're going to do a live show going forward, and really look forward to y'all being back and having you join us again in this next year. New fun things coming up, and go out there, get the experiences, and give the experiences. Most importantly, if you're working in the industry, make sure that you are leaving your customers with a feeling, that positive energy that's so contagious that you can be responsible for and impacting others. So thanks again, and we will see you again next week. Or not next week, for the next session, that is.